What's up, people? Joe-Winko here, your favorite Hawaiian guy, and here's my next episode of Joe-Winko Talk, and my first episode of Joe-Winko Talk for year 2025. This year has not been good so far. Been trying to make the best of it, but this year has definitely not been good so far. Not just for me, but for a lot of people, apparently. It has not been good, and it's only just started. So, this is obviously going to be a very gloomy episode of Joe-Winko Talk. I first want to say this. If you know anyone who has died in the Washington, D.C. plane crash that happened a couple days ago, or if you were close to anyone who has died in the Washington, D.C. plane crash a couple days ago, do not watch this video if you were close to anyone who died in the Washington, D.C. plane crash, because this video is going to be upsetting and it might trigger you and it might upset you. I just need to put that out there because I'm just going to be sharing my personal thoughts on it, honestly, and everything that it made me think of, since the whole point of my YouTube videos is to share with you guys what goes on inside my mind, and, well, also to connect with people also, which I'm going to be getting back to soon. And another thing I need to clarify, this video is not meant to help anyone overcome their fear of flying. I'm just gonna straight up say that right now. This video is not meant to help anyone overcome their fear of flying. I myself have a fear of flying. I don't like flying on planes. I never liked flying on planes. I love adventure. I love road trips. I love seeing new places. As a matter of fact, this rune on my chest is a magic Viking rune, which is meant for safe travel and safe adventure. That's what this rune, the one in blue, represents. The one in red is a ancient gay Viking rune meant to draw love from one man to another man. But the one in blue, it represents safe travel and safe adventure. Because I do love getting out. I do love seeing new places, and I do love adventure and everything. But I do not like flying on planes. The major reason why is because I'm scared to die on them. That isn't even the only reason, but that's a major reason why. And there's lots of reasons why. And I don't want to overcome my fear of flying, and apparently I do not have to at all. But I seriously have always been afraid of airplanes and never liked flying on them, even back when I was a little kid. I always would hate how my ears would pop whenever I'm on a plane. Even then, nowadays, they're really strict on how much luggage you can bring on a plane. Changing flight reservations is really the most difficult thing. With Greyhound Bus or Amtrak, you're able to do that quite easily, really. You just have to pay like a $20 fee. But with flying on airplanes, from what I know, you can't really exchange or change the date on a ticket very easily at all. It's also really uncomfortable and not fun being crammed in a metal tube thousands of feet up in the air. I don't know how anyone can enjoy that. I do love adventure and seeing new places, but the road trips are the funnest part. Getting there is the funnest part, really. And getting back to this rune symbol on my chest, in case this is the first video of me that you're watching, I'm actually a single gay guy living in northern Florida who's been trying to find a lover and a partner for a while, preferably a crazy obsessive man. And just letting you all know, as if it isn't obvious enough, I haven't even came close to that at all, really. Guys always reject me for really stupid reasons. And one really stupid reason that I get rejected for a lot is that I don't like flying on airplanes at all. And lots of guys bash me for this, and lots of guys reject me for this, and lots of guys get mad at me for this, because I always will tell someone, like if I'm talking to a guy on a dating site, I always will tell him that I love road trips and I love adventure. I don't like doing any of the driving, but I love road trips and I love adventure and everything like that. And then he, like if he's interested and stuff like that, sometimes he'll tell me that he likes flying out to exotic locations and visiting exotic locations. And then as soon as I bring up that I don't like flying on airplanes, that's when everything goes immediately downhill. I've even done an episode of Joe-Winko Talk about that interstate drama, that episode of Joe-Winko Talk that I did back in year 2018, which I'll have linked in the pinned comments of this video. That was some stupid guy who got mad at me because I don't like flying on airplanes, and he didn't even know his ways around the interstates either. Another example that I didn't mention was one time, and this was a really long time ago, but I remember it vividly. I was on Grindr, and it was right after I had moved to Florida, and I had on my profile that I love road trips and adventure, and I was looking for a guy who likes to drive and go on road trips. And then this random guy who was probably now that I think of it, was probably some dynamic AI bot, probably not even a real person. He messaged me on Grindr and he started typing to me, "Oh, we are a perfect match. I love to travel and I love going on adventures." And then I was like, "Oh yeah, I love going on road trips too." And I sent him the map of all the places I wanted to road trip to. It was this map back then, and I've already been to quite a few of those places by now, but at that time I hadn't. And I was telling him that those are all the places I've been wanting to road trip to, and I've been looking for someone to take me there. And then he just had to bring up, "Oh, well, what about exotic destinations like Europe or China?" Why the fuck would I want to go to China? But let's not even go there. We're getting off topic. I told him, no, I don't like going to exotic locations because I don't like flying on airplanes. Also, because I prefer to only go on adventures in countries where people speak the same language as me, but I'm not really thrilled on going to exotic locations at all. I'm fine here in the USA or Canada, any place that you can drive to, that I'm fine with just that, honestly. And then virtually in an instant, he pulled a full 360 on me, told me that that was really boring, and told me that it was really stupid that I was scared to fly on airplanes. Keep in mind, this is our first fucking conversation. And then I told him, well, I wanted a guy who wanted to watch me on YouTube and learn about me and get to know me and become my lover and partner. And then he came back with, "Oh, well, I learned enough to know that I'm not interested." And then he blocked me. And I was just really pissed off because I kind of have an irrational anger towards people's stupidity. Yeah, and I just keep running into stupid people over and over again, especially recently. And it's really stupid how guys get upset with me because I don't like flying on airplanes. Just more of their stupid reasons to reject me, honestly. Or act like they like me, then pull a 360 on me and ditch me. That's mainly what they're doing, honestly. And another really stupid thing that people tend to tell me a lot, and God, if I got a dime for every single fucking time someone has told me this, they always tell me, "You're more likely to die in a car crash than you are in a plane crash." And then, you know what I say to them? I'm like, bitch, if they were... Okay, there's tons of cars driving on the roads every day. Obviously, there aren't as many airplanes up in the skies as there are cars driving on the roads. Think about the total number of cars that are out driving on the roads. Imagine if there were that many planes flying up in the sky. For every car driving on the road, there's a plane in the sky. Let me tell you this, plane crashes would happen much more often if that was the case. So that's the only reason why they have that whole stupid statistic that you're safer flying on a fucking airplane than you are just behind the wheel or in a car going on a road trip. I once read about a Greyhound bus crash and 3 people died in the Greyhound bus crash, but an overwhelming majority of the people on board survived. Let me show you this picture. This is a scary plane crash that I read about online, the scariest one. Let me show you this picture. How many people do you think survived that plane crash? How many people inside that plane do you think survived? We all know the answer to that. Absolutely none of them did. That was the Concorde crash that happened in 2000. That was actually the scariest one that I read about, and I was actually watching videos about that on YouTube just a couple weeks before what happened a few days ago. You're honestly much more likely to survive a car crash than you are to survive a plane crash. That's one statistic that not enough people pay attention to. I even remember one time last summer, this stranger I was talking to online sent me a bus ticket out to Texas to come visit him. And my bus ended up getting stranded at the Tallahassee bus station, and we were there for hours waiting for a new driver. And it was uncomfortable and everything, but it wasn't too bad. I mean, I was talking to some of the people there. There are these truck driver girls I was talking to. Well, truck driver women, female truck drivers. That's a rarity. We were talking to each other and everything. I was telling them about how I was excited to go to Texas, and they were like, "Oh, that's cool." They were telling me that they were truck drivers, and like like I think one of us mentioned that, like, oh, I should have flown instead. And then when I pulled out my phone, I read this one story about this plane that crashed in Brazil like a couple weeks prior. Well, probably not even weeks prior, a couple days prior. It was back in summer of 2024. And I was like, oh, I just read a news story about this plane that crashed in Brazil. And then she said, oh, well, okay, I'm glad I didn't fly. And I'm like, I'm glad I didn't fly either. I'm scared of flying. And then one of the other truck drivers, she said, yep, I'm the same way. If God would have wanted me to be up in the sky, he would have gave me wings. And that's absolutely true. I agreed with her. We all agreed with her. If God would have wanted us to fly, he would have gave us wings. Because I seriously can't even stand being up in the air that high. Seriously, your ears pop and crammed in a tube and everything, like I was just explaining earlier. And it just pisses me off how so many guys get mad at me and bash me and reject me for that. Every now and then I'll go on YouTube and I'll watch a bunch of documentaries about plane crashes when I feel like freaking myself out. And one day I just became obsessed with plane crashes and kept reading about them online over and over again. And somehow I found out that the last deadly plane crash that happened in the United States of America was back in February of 2009. It was a flight from New York City to upstate New York, I believe. It was the last deadly plane crash that happened within the USA. There were other plane crashes after that, but they weren't within the USA. At that time, that was the last deadly plane crash in the USA until a couple days ago when this one plane ended up crashing in Washington, D.C. It was an American Airlines plane that was flying from Kansas to Washington, D.C., and the scary thing was, it was right before they were all about to land, but they never made it at all because a helicopter had crashed into them and brought them all down. And everyone on the plane died. Everyone in the helicopter died as well. It wasn't even because of a pilot's error. It was because of the people flying the helicopter, because apparently, I saw this on the news, there's a height limit for how high the helicopter can fly near the airport. I believe the height limit was 200 feet, but the plane was actually flying at 400 feet, which is, I don't know about you, but that seems like quite a negligent error if you're flying near a fucking airport where you could easily crash into a plane, not just kill yourself, but everyone else on board. So it wasn't even the fucking pilot's fault at all. I thought it was really messed up and really sad. And I felt sorry for everyone on board because most of the people on board were ice skaters. And most of them were kids who were all on this ice skating team, and they were all trying to get into the Olympics. I also want to show you guys this. This is really chilling, but this is the path that the plane took before it crashed. As I was saying, it left from Wichita, Kansas, and flew all the way to Washington, D.C. And I remember when I first saw the picture of the route. Now, this is definitely because of my autism mind, but when I saw the picture of the route, it gave me a just gave me a bitter chill because, as I was saying, I always prefer to go on road trips instead of flying on planes. And I saw all the locations of where that plane was actually flying over on that map. The area that that plane flew over looks exactly like a route that I would want to take a road trip on. That's Interstate 44 through Missouri, then Interstate 64 from St. Louis, Missouri, out to Washington, D.C. Actually, the quickest way there would be Interstate 35 north and then Interstate 70 all the way across. It depends on what states you want to drive through, though. I'm not sure if it makes sense to anyone, but when I saw that map of where the plane flew over, it just kind of gave me a chill, really. Like knowing that that would have been a place that I would have loved to go on a road trip through, but the plane flew over it instead. And they all died when they flew on the plane over that route. And also because people keep bashing me because I don't like flying on planes. I always hate it when people try to get me to overcome my fear of flying because I seriously do not ever need to be on a fucking airplane at all. There's no reason why. I mean, I don't want to go overseas. I don't want to go to Europe. I mean, what the fuck am I going to do in Europe? Well, yeah, film a bunch of videos, but get caught up in a place where no one knows how to speak English at all? I'd rather not. Don't even get me started on going to Asia or, God forbid, Australia, and God forbid, Africa. Don't. Well, Australia is the worst one. Let me just say that. But, yeah. But I'm absolutely terrified of flying on airplanes, and I don't want anyone to try to convince me to fly on airplanes, because it's just going to make me really angry, especially after all this. I seriously wish they would build the fucking high-speed rail, because, I mean, it still would have took them a few hours to take the high-speed rail from Wichita, Kansas to Washington, D.C., but still. And the major reason why they're not building a fucking high-speed rail throughout the USA is because people prefer to fly on airplanes instead. And I just think that's really stupid because there's a lot of people who don't like flying on airplanes. Like me, for example. And hopefully almost everyone watching this video. And hopefully the guy who ends up falling in love with me as well. That's why I posted that video of me saying if you're a guy who loves adventure but doesn't like flying on airplanes, you and I should talk to each other. I mean, that's one thing that we will have in common at least. Can everyone please hope that I meet a guy like that? Seriously. Now, I know I'm kind of being harsh in this video towards whoever was flying the fucking helicopter which brought down that airplane, because that's a pretty stupid accident, you have to admit. If you're gonna fly a fucking helicopter near an airport, you better be competent enough not to make any mistakes. Why the hell do you think I'm not flying a helicopter near an airport? But as I was saying, I know I'm being harsh in this video, but it's just because if I was on an airplane and I ended up dying because some idiot wasn't flying a helicopter right, and that's the reason why I ended up dying, I would be pretty pissed off about that. I'd be really pissed off about that. Or if someone I cared about, or someone I was close to, or someone I was friends with was on an airplane and they ended up dying because some idiot was flying a helicopter incorrectly near a fucking airport, which is a hazardous zone, which should have had strict regulations, I would be even more pissed off about that, honestly. Which brings me to my next point in this video, a major point in this video. So as I said, a major point of my YouTube channel is to connect to people and contact people and make friends with people since I'm an autistic guy who kind of has no life somewhat. That's a major point of my YouTube videos is to connect with people and reach out to people and talk to people, honestly. Also to find my obsessive lover, too. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that that's the main point, but that's a major point recently. Hopefully a guy who doesn't like flying on airplanes. But I consider all the people who watch me on YouTube and subscribe to me on YouTube to be my friends, honestly, except for the hate mail comments I've been getting. But besides those, I consider all the nice people who watch me on YouTube to be my friends, honestly. And there's one friend who I do talk to who watches me on YouTube. That's how she found me, and that's how we became friends with each other. I'm not going to say her name in this video, but let me just say that her name is Carly. Not her real name, but that's the name I'm going to use in this video. She calls me on Discord every now and then, and we talk to each other, and she's really cool. She's my friend and everything. And I'm technically her gay best friend, which is a title that I'm always proud to have. Just need to throw that out there. Just a couple days ago, she video called me and we were talking to each other and we started talking about the plane crash in Washington, D.C. And she doesn't live in Washington, D.C. at all. But she was telling me that when she saw that on the news, I was the one who brought it up, the plane crash that happened in Washington, D.C. She got freaked out by that. And she told me that it really scared her. And I was like, it scared me also. I mean, that's why I'm scared to fly on airplanes. She told me that it freaked her out even more because just 5 days before that happened, she was actually at that airport. She was telling me that. And I was like, what? You were actually at that airport? And she was like, yeah, I was at that airport 5 days before that happened because we had a connecting flight to take us all home and we had to stop in Washington, D.C. because that's how these fucking planes are. You can't always get a direct flight to exactly where you need to go to, which is even more stupid that they work like that. She said that that really freaked her out, that that plane crash happened at the airport where she had a transfer at just days earlier. Now, when she told me that, I was obviously glad that nothing happened to her. I was obviously glad that no idiot was flying a helicopter incorrectly near the airport when she was landing there or anything like that. But after a while, I kept thinking of that, and I got pissed off about that, that one of my friends was that close to danger because, how do I explain this? I mean, I was mad that one of my friends was that close to danger. Even though nothing happened to them, I was mad that one of my friends was that close to danger because of some stupid, unregulated airspace near a fucking airport. I mean, it's their responsibility to keep those people alive and to keep those people safe and make sure no accidents like that ever happen. And I just want to say this. If she's watching this video right now, her real name is not Carly, but if she's watching this video right now, um, hope this doesn't freak her out at all, honestly. What I was really trying to say in this part of the video is that if my friend Carly is watching this video, don't let this freak you out. I was just sharing what was going on inside my head and my gloomy imagination in this part of this episode. I also obviously would be extremely devastated and enraged if something horrible like this happened to my friend Carly or any of my other friends that I talk to. And I'm glad this didn't happen to my friend Carly or any of my other friends.
But it pisses me off that one of my friends was almost at risk of this happening to them. My mind and my imagination tend to go to gloomy places, but I still felt like this was an important point to bring up in the video.
But my imagination just went crazy when she told me that. I was like, "Oh my God, my friend was actually almost at that airport and could have been on that plane when that happened," and that freaked me out. Another scary thing that I'm going to show now is that this plane crash was actually caught on camera. You can barely see it because it's so dark in the video. My imagination went crazy because I have autism. I have a very vivid imagination. But I kept watching that video over and over again of the plane crash, and I just imagined if it was my friend Carly who was on that plane, my friend who watches me on YouTube, and if she was one of the people on that plane and if she died in that plane crash, exactly how would I? Well, obviously, I'd be devastated. I would be enraged. I would be really pissed off. Why is that even allowed to happen? Why are you even allowed to fly helicopters near an airport? What was the fucking point of helicopters flying over that airport? Seriously. I mean, if you're going to have hazards near an airport like that, you better make sure that they're all strictly regulated so stuff like that doesn't happen. But I got really angry thinking about that, thinking about how one of my friends was that close to danger, because I also remember seeing on the news that just a day before that, another plane at that same airport was almost hit by a helicopter, but they were able to stop it in time. They weren't able to stop this fucking one in time. This plane crash that killed a bunch of ice skaters, a bunch of kids. And the scariest thing was when I watched that video of the plane crash, I kept imagining what if it would have been my friend on that plane. I would have been really furious and really devastated if one of my friends died. But someone else actually did have a friend on that plane. Not just someone else, a whole lot of people had friends on that plane. And when they watch that video, they actually are seeing whatever friend they had on that plane die. And that pisses me off too, really. It just pisses me off how negligent people can be, how negligent things are, honestly. And I feel like it's only going to get worse, really. I mean, 2025 has been an awful year so far. I don't mean to be negative, but I just needed to vent about that. I'm glad that my friend is okay. I'm glad that she wasn't at that airport when that crash happened. But overall, it's really sad. I felt sorry for all those people who passed away. And it also reminded me of the time when I was out in California. I didn't get to California by flying on an airplane. It was actually these strangers who were watching me on YouTube who sent me a bus ticket out there. And I was at the Alaska Airlines Memorial. And I remember sharing that video on a bunch of websites. And I was talking about how I hate flying on airplanes. And a bunch of people were telling me, "Oh, well, how did you get from Florida to California?" And I was like, "I sure as hell didn't fly there, I can tell you that." You see the stupidity I run into? You would have thought that they would have just figured that. But it was really sad. And I feel sorry for all those people. Because that really is a scary way to die. Well, besides that, as I was saying earlier, this year has not been going so well for me at all. I've been spending like a lot of time by myself. I tend to kind of snap when I spend a lot of time by myself. But it seems like nowadays it has more of an effect on me than it used to. Everyone always tells me, "Oh, you need to learn to be happy by yourself." And I think it's really fucked up when people tell me that, honestly. I don't know why so many people tell me that, but I think it's a really fucked up thing to say to me, and it always strikes a nerve with me whenever they do. But I am trying to get out. Counts as something, and I want everyone to hope that I do. Please imagine that a Please imagine that a stranger watches me on YouTube and wants to go for a long drive with me. That's one thing that would make me feel a lot better, honestly. And recording all of it on my dash cam too. You guys know how I love doing that. But yeah, that's basically it for this episode of Joe-Winko Talk. I've been feeling kind of out of it lately, so sorry if it was a rambled mess. But just wanted to do an episode of Joe-Winko Talk about this. My phobia of flying on airplanes is not uncalled for. It's not irrational. It absolutely is rational for me to be afraid of flying on airplanes. It actually makes perfect sense. So don't try to discredit it. I don't want to overcome my fear of flying. So don't try to make me overcome my fear of flying because I'm not missing out on anything. I don't ever need to be on a fucking airplane. I'm only interested in going places within the USA or even in Canada. And if I want to go someplace outside of North America, I'll take a damn boat there. They should make more fucking boats available for people to sail here and sail there. Honestly. That's all I have to say for this episode. Please comment and share your thoughts. Add me on Discord if you want to talk, especially if you're a single guy in your 50s, just as long as you respect that all my orifices are exits. I'm sorry I had to say that. If you've been as lonely as I am, you would be saying it also. And don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. And rest in peace to all the people who passed away in the 2025 Washington, D.C. plane crash. A bunch of people who died for a really stupid reason because someone wasn't flying a helicopter properly. I mean, I would be pissed off if that happened to me. I'm pissed off that it happened to those people. They did not deserve it, and it's really sad. So that's it. Peace out, people.